Welcome into Weekly Champions here on Wrestling Spotlight. Hey, last week we talked about the Royal Rumble, and it was as eventful as anticipated, completely surprising the vast majority of the wrestling universe, with main event Jey Uso getting the win in the men's Rumble. And we're here on Wrestling Spotlight to talk about it. Gerald, Bentley, joined by Sonny, the Man Eagle Cain. And Sonny, we nailed the women's matchup. We had that one right. We got Cody winning, but I don't think anyone picked Jey Uso winning the men's Rumble. What did you think of that? That was the most news-making story of the event, as we're now firmly on the highway to WrestleMania.
Well, I thought maybe he could win it. His mindset was such going into the Rumble that it really impressed me the week before when he said, well, what I have to do now since I lost to Gunther is win the Royal Rumble. And I thought, well, that's pretty impressive from him. And I'd already made my pick on CM Punk, but as I watched it in the Rumble and saw how he was performing, I think he could go all the way. He's got the fanfare behind him now, and he has skyrocketed to the upper ranks of the WWE and basically overnight. And I'm looking forward to see the Elimination Chamber coming up here, I guess, in a couple more weeks.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I guess we probably should have considered it a little bit more, seeing as the event that I have highlighted behind me, Cody against Kevin Owens, is the trifecta of a trilogy of matches, as Cody and KO have gone at it for a few months. I mean, it's something the WWE does. It makes sense that Jey Uso would get another shot at the ring general, Gunther, especially with the extended promos and Gunther calling him a tiny little man and a funny little man and a clown. That, this is a multiple time World Tag Team Champion, an Intercontinental Champion, one of the best tag wrestlers of all time, a guy who's been in the main events either on one side or the other side of the Bloodline story for the last 4 years. I mean, it really isn't all that shocking when you think about it. And that's a good catch referencing those promos, because he was flat out there saying, hey, I'm not done yet. And now he isn't. Right. And you have to think it's going to end up being Gunther, especially with the way that Gunther addressed him at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, the next show, Monday Night Raw, from Cleveland, talking about, hey, I'm done with you. I'm tired of you. I don't need this match again. I mean, he's pretty much voicing it into existence, isn't he?
Yes, sir. And he keeps calling him out, basically, and saying derogatory things to him. And his own Bloodline family has pushed him out a little bit, and not taking him as serious as some of the other family members, in my opinion. And at least that's the way I've been watching the story here the past several weeks. And now it's his time to shine, and I think he can do it.
To be fair, it is kind of hard to take him seriously. We've heard Wade Barrett talk about it for quite a while, yeeting his way down to the ring, dressed in neon, with Pat McAfee and Michael Cole dancing and the whole stadium going off for him. It is kind of hard to take him as a serious competitor, but he is. What else stood out to you in the Rumble? I know a lot's been made about Penta maybe touching both feet to the ground, but the referee didn't see it, so it didn't happen, right? And then Penta went on to have a really impactful Rumble and continues setting himself up to make a big run in his WWE maiden voyage, complete with beating down Ludwig Kaiser and confronting the bruiserweight Pete Dunne. Then on Monday night, Penta Alzera Mieiro showing zero fear in his debut in the WWE. I mean, do you do you care much about? Did you think that was a big deal that maybe his feet touched the ground like right
Well,
after the Rumble started?
I paid attention to the replay, and I only saw a foot touch. I didn't see the other foot touch, and that's the unique thing about the referee earpiece cameras now that are
The
brand
cameras,
new
yeah.
to the game. They can no longer, they being the referees, can no longer say we didn't see it. Well, it's on your
Yeah.
ear. Just roll back
Go to
the
the VAR.
tape and
They have
look
to
at
start
it and
doing like
pause the
soccer
match.
and doing making the screen. That's when it's time for VAR, right?
Yes, sir. And even in football, especially, they go back on the replay all the time. They stop everything. They say, look. And I think wrestling is heading in that same direction with the earpiece cameras. And Penta's drawn a lot of heat for being so dang good at what he does. And I think he's going to be a major wrestling star in the near future. Again,
Well, I
all
mean,
they have to do is go back and replay.
yeah, I mean, he has been. I mean, look at him with his career in Mexico in AAA, then what he did with Lucha Underground, which honestly doesn't get the credit it deserves, because you look around the pro wrestling landscape right now and look at all the people who starred in Lucha Underground. That was an impactful show. Penta, his brother Ray Phoenix, The Machine Brian Cage, Thunder Rosa, Ricochet, Swerve Strickland, and Chelsea Green, who made a big appearance during the Rumble. So there's stars all over. And then, of course, Penta was a tag champion in TNA and Impact, tag champion and a top of the card performer in AEW. He had a really good feud against Cody for that TNT title. This is a guy who can be at the top of the card, a main event wrestler. And even though you don't hear him often, he's done a few English language promos. He speaks English perfectly well. I mean, he is a
Probably
guy
so.
that with his look, and you can see I'm a big Penta fan. You see what I got right behind me there?
I
Got my
did.
Penta El Zero Muro mask right behind me. He is poised to make a big run, and maybe he is the next luchador to really break through in the WWE. I mean, Rey Mysterio, I think, is about my age. So, I mean, he's not going to
Yeah.
be going forever, and he's obviously slowed down some. Penta, man, he's in the prime of his career. He's ready for a big run.
I think the fresh faces are what we need now, and I saw several in the women's battle royal too. Like the girl that was in green, I don't recall her name, but she came out.
Oh,
The blonde-headed
you know who
wrestler
that is?
came out
You
in
saw,
wonderful form.
yeah, you saw the first huge impact, pardon the pun, of the relationship with TNA Wrestling Impact and the WWE. The lady in the women's match was the juggernaut Jordan Grace, your
That
former
was a
knockout champion in TNA. Elite level bodybuilder, really good wrestler. You saw her pick up Nia Jax and do
yeah.
a Death Valley driver, fireman's carry to a Death Valley driver with a pop up, an amazing move. And then on the men's side, somebody said his name in the back and the music hit, and everybody at the Lucas Oil Stadium believed in Joe Hendry. And Joe Hendry came out and had a big showing for himself. So I think that is good, because even though it's probably a precursor of Joe Hendry going the way of Jordan Grace and becoming a full-time WWE competitor as soon as his contract is up, I think it's still good for TNA because they're getting their exposure raised up quite a bit. And there's no substitute for being on one of the biggest stages of all in the sport of pro wrestling and having your champions highlighted. I think TNA got a huge boost from their partnership with AEW when Kenny Omega was the champion and then Christian Cage was the champion. And now they're going to get a significant boost from having their champions appearing on WWE programming as well. So, yeah, that was something that really kind of jumped out.
Yes, sir. And I think it's fantastic that the leagues are now truly, genuinely, seemingly working together. In my keynotes this week or talking points this week, I have a couple of things, and I'll be speaking on that toward the end of the show. But it's great to see an intersection of leagues coming together. You've got TNA, you've got Next, you've got WWE, and they're all sort of merging together right now. And I just think it's fantastic to bring in the fresh talent, the fresh faces, because it opens the door for a floodgate of new storylines that can unfold as a result of that. So.
Yeah, well, and speaking of new storylines, let's get into that women's Rumble match. That's what kicked off the show. The winner, like we said, not a surprise. We both called it. The Queen is back. Charlotte Flair comes in towards the back half of the Rumble. She gets the win, and she is checking out the possible title she can go against. She was on WWE Raw, is going to visit NXT to look at Julia. Speaking of international
I'm taping that now.
And going to be on SmackDown as well. Taking a look at the one that I think she's going to end up going up against. Tiffany Stratton. That seems like a matchup that's just been made for a long time because their styles go together. The acrobatic, the gymnastic background to Tiffany Stratton, the world-class athleticism of Charlotte Flair. I think that should really pair off well and be a huge match coming up on WrestleMania weekend in Las Vegas.
I think Charlotte's surprised by how the women have stepped up during her absence. She looked a little surprised at the competition and how and the level that they have risen to now, and I think that's great. We can't take anything away from Rhea Ripley. She's surely in the pool of people that she could go against. But I think you're right. I think it's going to be Tiffany, and we'll just have to see. And as she makes her rounds, it really surprised her that she too got booed, but her own dad got booed the bulk of his career. So as being the heel, so you can't be too surprised by that. Really, and she kept right on rolling through it like the professional she is. She's actually my wrestling crush at this point, and has been. I've watched her since her days in Lodi's training camp, Lodi Cain's, and I know Lodi. I wrestled Lodi on the Independence several times, and it went back and forth between us, the wins and the losses. But she looks like she can maneuver around on her knees just fine to me. I'm sure in a singles match we're going to see it be attacked a lot more than in the Battle Royal, and that'll be the real test. But she looks rehab to me. So at this point,
yeah, I mean they take their time now in the WWE and AEW. I mean they've had plenty of matches at their workout facility at the Performance Center in the WWE, so they're good to go before they put him back into the ring on national TV. It's not a risk. You're not getting into the ring for the first time. It's just the first time we've seen it. But one more point on the women's Rumble that really jumped out at me. Youth was definitely being served by the WWE because we saw the prodigy Roxanne Perez, your former Ring of Honor champion, your former NXT champion, a protege of Thunder Rosa, back from Mission Pro Wrestling. She had a big part. Lyra Valkyria, your women's Intercontinental champion, former NXT Europe champion, was out there. B-Fab got into the match. Ivy Nile, who is a impressive physical specimen, part of Chad Gable's group, American made. Lash Legend, talking about impressive athletes, another young performer, WNBA superstar, Lash Legend. And we're still going with some more young competitors because Stephanie Vacour was out there. Julia was out there. I mean, there is just a tremendous amount of talent. Now, when you look across the WWE universe, where they used to struggle and have to bring back lots of retirees, lots of legends to fill out the field of 30. They did have Trish Stratus out there and Nikki Bella came out, but they didn't need to. They could have easily filled the card with their own performers and pulled a couple of more wrestlers up from NXT. It really is impressive how deep and diverse of a roster they've built up in just a few years since the COVID era.
Yes, sir. It's great to see it hasn't diminished any since the COVID era. I recall during the COVID era how we had TVs in seats and fans virtually watching the show, and that's a dinosaur era thing to do today. And now fans are just filling the arenas every night again, and I think it's fantastic. They said they drew something like 70,000 people at the show that night, and it was the largest gate in the history of WWE, if I'm not mistaken.
The Rumble, yeah. And they're going to beat it here coming up at WrestleMania. So yeah, they're really rolling. I do want to correct myself too. It was Piper Niven, Chelsea Green's Secret Service, that Jordan Grace gave the Fireman's Carry Death Valley driver to. Just as impressive, though. It's an amazing move if you go back and look at it. The other amazing visual that stood out to me in the match was the standoff between the current generation of NXT and the previous generation, as Julia, Stephanie Vacour, and Roxanne Perez stared down the EST, Bianca Belair, Bayley, and Charlotte Flair. So that was an interesting confrontation. And that's what you see in the Royal Rumble, is you get some of these pairings that you didn't think were coming that may well happen, because they're able to take that battle royale match and spin off new stories, which really pushes the WWE into that WrestleMania season. So really good effort, great match. And I think Charlotte Flair is a very, very credible winner of it. Then we went into the tag team championships. Best 2 out of 3 falls. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, DIY, going up against guys who probably were inspirations to him, or maybe role models. The Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. I thought the Motor City Machine Guns were going to win it. Really did. I was kind of surprised that Gargano and Ciampa win it. Not that they're not good tag team wrestlers. They are. But we did get a little bit of an interesting mix, and something that I think will set up a 3-way matchup for the tag team championships at WrestleMania. The Street Profits, Montez Ford, and Antonio Dawkins, they were back. They came back in wearing hoodies, kind of surprised everybody. But with Dawkins and Ford back, now you got the Street Profits in the mix, you got the Motor City Machine Guns in the mix, and you got DIY. I think that's going to set up for just a big 3-way match, a triple threat coming up at Mania.
Probably so. I was paying attention to that as well, and there is actually a street prophecy thing that goes on in the streets. So they are doing a real type gimmick thing with their look and attire. I'm going for the Profits. I think the Profits are going to be the fresh team if it does go to a three-way.
Yeah, well, they deserve another run at it. If Montez Ford doesn't get his long-awaited singles run, now let's let them be the tag champions again, because they are another established tag team and another division that's getting deeper as we go. The WWE adding depth, and it's going to add even more depth when Rey Fenix follows his brother, and then you have the Lucha Bros going at it too. They've had some great matches in the past against the Motor City Machine Guns, and it will be good to see them get it back going in a WWE ring as well. The championship match was next, the ladder match. 3 years, almost to the day, that Cody Rhodes had his final match in AEW, a ladder match against Sammy Guevara. And unlike his matchup with the Spanish God, Sammy Guevara, the American Nightmare wins this one. He holds on to the title. He is your undisputed WWE champion, getting ready to go into Mania, and we'll find out who he's going to go up against, probably with the main event of Elimination Chamber, because I'm pretty sure Jey Uso is going up against Gunther. This match, though, was a crazy match. I was expecting to see some high leverage spots, some really intense work, and it surpassed my expectations. The takeaway I had was that you took Cody out of AEW, but he brought that AEW style with him. He's still wrestling the matches he wanted to wrestle. This didn't look like a WWE match. The level of aggression, the violence, the blood, it was different. I mean, it was a good match. And really, I think, kind of stole the show from the 2 Rumble matches, because there were some spots in it that were just insane and really makes you wonder how these guys kept walking at the end of the match. Wade Barrett said a few times, "You'll win it, but you'll be diminished." I agree with him. I think you probably need a good month off after this match.
Yes, sir. And at the end, Cody Rhodes was taken to the hospital for observation, for an overnight observation before, I guess, finally being released. But they said that on WWE. It's good to see Cody Rhodes continue to prove himself as the world champion at this point. And it was just unbelievable. Hats off to Kevin Owens. He didn't back away any. He didn't leave. He didn't try and run. It was a head-on, 2 lines out the cage type fight to the end. And boy, what an ending! Nobody expected the ending to be like it did, like it was. I don't think. But the only way to end it was to completely stop Kevin Owens. I mean, we would still be there now if it was Kevin Owens' call. But you had to do something to slow him down and even stop him. But what a outcome ending. I was in as big an awe as everybody in the building.
The ladder matches itself are I mean, legitimately dangerous by nature, because you're not meant to fall from 12 feet high. I mean, you just aren't. And they are metal. They're not trick ladders. They're real ladders.
They're metal.
Just like you would get at Home Depot or Lowe's. They're real deals, because guess what? If they were trick ladders, so they wouldn't hurt, they couldn't support your weight.
Right.
Right?
That's exactly right.
It's a real impact. These are intense, crazy matches. And yeah, you really got to appreciate it. I was stunned at some of the moves. The fisherman suplex that KO gave to Cody into the ladder was just insane. And then we'll talk about the final series, the final move sequence just a little bit later, because it definitely stood out. But easily a match of the year candidate. This was very impressive, next level, and Michael Cole and Pat McAfee talked about Cody being the first one in, the last one out, really wanting to embrace that role as, which I've heard him say before, the QB1 of WWE, because the quarterback's important, everybody follows, and he is living up to it. His championship, I know it's supposed to be equal with Gunther's. That's the title. I mean, right? That is the title.
Yes, sir.
And then Gunther's is the second place one.
Right.
Wouldn't you say? I mean, it's the best of the trio of the Intercontinental, the U.S. title. But the undisputed Universal Championship, that is still the title.
Right. Exactly. And it's been years in the making. Like I said,
Roman. Got to give Roman credit, right?
Right. Like I said last week, they had talked about a King of the Hill kind of belt for years, and it was speculated, talked about, and thrown around in my day in the NWA that it was going to be a unified heavyweight champion from the different leagues, like in boxing, which would have been awesome. But so far, that hasn't come to be as yet. But we do have a King of the Hill champion. So, in the men and the women's category. Just to reiterate on the women's Royal Rumble, not pushing the time limit here on the show, I was really impressed with Liv Morgan and how long she stayed in the women's Rumble match. She had the longest record of anybody.
She's going to be a factor moving forward. Absolutely.
So
there's
still keep an eye on Liv.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of depth, and that's what it shows. And like we had talked about, there was only 4 matches, but you got almost a 4-hour pay-per-view out of 4 matches, 4-hour premium live event. You didn't need any more. And there's going to be matches that'll spin off of it. It's just getting back to the men's. We did see a confrontation between Roman and Jacob Fatu, which I think that's a match everybody would like to see. We saw a confrontation between Roman and Braun Breaker, with Braun spearing Roman, only for Roman to pop up and eliminate Braun. And then a little bit later, we saw eliminations and a skirmish going on between Roman, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk, which I think will end up being another 3-way matchup at Mania, because you got to get them in there. And if CM Punk doesn't win Elimination Chamber, I think that's where they end up being, because it just seems so important to get all of them in a significant match, and that would be pretty significant. The news that came out of the Rumble match was Drew McIntyre furiously storming out, upset because reports are saying that LA Knight got off track a little bit and didn't go the way it was planned for Drew. What do you think about that? I mean, is that something that happens fairly often, where you get upset because the match didn't go the way you wanted it to, and it just doesn't really get publicized much?
I wouldn't say fairly often. I would say it does happen from time to time, and that's where the fan who watches the show weekly instead of actually being in the business doesn't seem to understand the reality of the match that they're watching. They say, oh, it's all this, it's all that, it's all scripted, it's all choreographed. No, it ain't. You get in there, you get a guy that's a bully, you get a promoter in there who's like Dusty Rhodes was the promoter of the NWA back in my day. He ran the show basically. You get a guy like that in there who doesn't want to go, and they will toss you out regardless of the final call in the locker room. And to me, that just showed the realness of wrestling. I'm going to be doing a memoir book here the next 3 years of my time in, which is probably no great surprise. And I'm going to flat out talk about wrestling ain't all fake. And Drew had every reason to be upset. saw on the tidbit this week as I was writing up my notes for tonight's show that CM Punk approved of Jey Uso winning. So, it's like that. And back in my day, what made it so much more real to the fans was you had a committee board who would actually come together before the shows and vote on this, that, and the other of about 15 members, wrestlers and promoters alike. And they would decide the world heavyweight champion each night.
Sure.
So, it's really changed from that to a single promoter approach like Triple H is. But
I think
I do believe, yeah, but I do believe that Drew McIntyre was genuinely cut off from where he was supposed to have ended up.
I agree.
He looked really mad to me. So.
Well, hey, let's go ahead as we're winding down here. Let's introduce, I like your idea, a new segment, the bump of the week. I think I know who you want to give the initial bump of the week to. That would be to the gentleman up on the screen behind me with the Winged Eagle belt over his shoulder.
Yes, sir. The first bump of the week for me is Kevin Owens, who took an impressive bump into the ladder. I thought he was dead. I mean, for a few minutes, it was unclear. He wasn't moving. But I watched the replay of how he tucked his neck, and I said, well, maybe he's just a little bit injured and was cushioned by the impact of the ladder. The only other move
the ladder
compares to that. Yeah, exactly. The only other move that compares to that is when Jeff Hardy a couple years back jumped off the top tier seats at a show onto a table, and Matt came running out. So, of course, to check on his brother, but he just lay there, man. And I thought, well, God, how is he going to get up out of that? And they never did show how he got up out of that. But
no, they did a great job of putting that move over too, because if you pop right up, it defeats the devastation of the move, right? You
absolutely. It's called selling.
You didn't sell anything. Yeah, it defeats the purpose. But I don't think you needed to sell. That had to take the wind out of him. Alabama slam onto a suspended ladder, broke the ladder in half, and he got his head stuck in the middle. I mean, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, which I highly doubt is the case for too many people watching a pro wrestling talk show, but definitely take the time, pull it up on Peacock, search on the socials.
It's time well spent.
Championship match. I mean, my God, it was crazy. Well, let's go ahead with our champion of the week then as we wind it down here, because it's going to be a long road as we're on the road to Wrestlemania coming up in Las Vegas.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Taya Valkyrie La Huera Loca, and you are watching Wrestling Spotlight.
Got our championship belts. And Sonny, real quick, I did want to mention that we are ready for pro wrestling here on Wrestling Spotlight. We're bringing a couple of big matches to the area here in Missouri and Kansas. First, in Glory Pro, coming up on February the 16th, just around the corner. It's their anniversary show. The 8th anniversary of Glory Pro. And what better way to celebrate post Valentine's Day than a matchup for the Women's World Crown of Glory Championship, as the champion Laney Luck tests her luck against Heather Reckless by Elegance. You see her on TNA Wrestling teaming up with Ash. This time she's by herself in a match sponsored by us at Wrestling Spotlight TV, where you can see the stars of Glory Pro right here on Wrestling Spotlight. And you can get tickets for it just by going to gloryprowrestling.com. If you're in the St. Louis area, definitely worth going to see. And they do a great job and have a great pro wrestling community. And then the following month in Kansas City at the Ball Event Center in Olathe, Kansas, Fountain City Pro is back, and this time you've seen her on WOW. You've seen her on AEW. You've seen her on TNA. Heidi Howitzer takes to the ring to go up against Ashlyn Alexander. Fountain City Pro back at it, lighted up to March 14th at the Ball Event Center in Olathe, Kansas. And you can go ahead and just scan that QR code. You can get tickets right there. Proud to sponsor both of those events, coming to the Midwest area, St. Louis for Glory Pro, the greater Kansas City area for Fountain City Pro. Sonny, with that, who is your champion of the week?
Well, I've got to give it to two people again this week. I was most impressed with Jey Uso's performance in the men's Royal Rumble, taking himself off of the mid-level card division and moving into the top tier card. I myself was a mid-level card wrestler and would occasionally be featured in main events. And my second champion of the week is my girl, Charlotte Flair. Just enamored by her. So
yeah, hard to go against the winners, you know. And newly single Charlotte Flair, she finalized her divorce with Andrade El Idolo.
I was going to mention that on notes.
Yeah, to be fair, Andrade did have a good showing too. I think Andrade is one of the best wrestlers going. Doesn't get the love he deserves in the WWE universe. Well, I'll go with Jey Uso again because I think you have to. It was really a shock, and I'm not going to hammer it as being a bad decision because I think the WWE's built it up, and you made a good point referencing those promos that they were kind of setting it up. You just had to really pay attention. There was some depth at work.
Yes, sir.
My other champion, though, is Harley Cameron. You have to be ready to feel the wrath of Harley Cameron as she is setting up for a big matchup against Mercedes Moné, the CEO at AEW Grand Slam, coming up in Australia. Another great segment. If you get a chance to pull it up on social media or find it on Max, Harley Cameron showing that she is multifaceted. Not only can she wrestle and sing, she's a ventriloquist as well. She had her Mercedes Moné CEO puppet following her first televised win. She's done a great job. For people who are criticizing AEW for not building characters, she started off as the assistant producer on QT Marshall's QTV. Then she was one of the outcasts with Saraya, and now everybody's getting to feel the wrath of Harley Cameron as she is moving up the card to be a top-tier star, following a move similar to Jey Uso. I mean, you look at the response that Harley Cameron gets when she comes out, the crowd's behind her, and I think it's great that she's getting a chance to go against arguably the best women's wrestler in the world right now, your CEO, Mercedes Moné. So that'll be really interesting. That's coming up on February 15th, the Saturday after Valentine's Day, on TNT and Max from Australia. So it's going to be on tape, but it should be some great matches. And you're also going to see that tag team matchup with Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay going up against Kyle Fletcher and the Alpha Kanoke Takeshita. So going to be some great matches coming up and a pay-per-view level show on TV. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up here. Urge everybody to stay tuned to Wrestling Spotlight. Catch out some of the great events that we're featuring right now, including cards from Glory Pro, Wrestle Arts, We Love Wrestling, and more right here. Stay tuned. You can catch us on TCL TV Plus, on True TV Plus, on Sports.tv, on CarbonTV, and WatchiTV, and lots of other streaming platforms. Thanks for tuning in, and by all means, support those local wrestling promotions in your town. We're happy to sponsor Glory Pro, coming up on February 16th, and Fountain City Pro on March 14th. Sonny, where can people keep up and stay in touch with you, get some wrestling insight between appearances here on Wrestling Spotlight TV?
People can stay in touch with me at Sonny Cain, at Real Sonny Cain on X. They can go to Instagram at Sonny Cain, at Sonny the Man Eagle Cain. They can go to Facebook at Sonny Cain, Sonny the Man Eagle Cain on Facebook.
Awesome. And stay tuned here to Wrestling Spotlight as we head down the road to Wrestlemania. Special featured guest coming up this week, WWE Hall of Famer Titus O'Neil. We're talking to Titus about his books. Yeah, WWE Hall of Famer Titus O'Neil. He's got his 2 books out that we're going to be talking about. There's No Such Thing as a Bad Kid, and his current book, Wrestling with Fatherhood, My Championship Journey to My Greatest Title, Dad. So stay tuned. Lots of great programming coming up here on Wrestling Spotlight. Have a great night.